support raising the gas tax in South Carolina?
That'd be a state up the state legislature. But yes, we need to have more revenue to build our roads and our bridges that are falling apart. One way to raise gas taxes, maybe you cut taxes somewhere else. I'll leave that up to the State House, but at the federal level, the Federal Highway Trust Fund is running out of money. We don't collect gas taxes like we used to because people drive further on a gallon of gas and there are a lot of hybrid cars. So what I'm doing at the federal level is trying to bring money that's held overseas by American corporations that won't come back into the country because of the 35% tax rate. So I'm working with Barbara Boxer, a liberal Democrat in California, to do a one-time good deal where a company can bring the money they have overseas back into America and pay a 10% tax rate rather than 35% and dedicate all that money to the Highway Trust Fund, which will help us at the federal level. Our roads and our bridges are falling apart, and from an economic point of view, Beaufort County is a great tourist destination. People will not come here if the roads are not safe, they can't travel in a leisurely fashion. So it's imperative we improve the highways, roads, and bridges of South Carolina to keep our economy humming.
Senator, what are your thoughts as far as getting support for the ports, especially the Charleston and Jasper ports here in this area?
Okay, Jasper is a future port opportunity. Charleston is an absolute must. We have to go to 52 feet. The Corps of Engineers announced that they agree with that. A 52-foot deep Charleston Port at 52 feet can service the big ships coming on the ocean 24/7. If we don't go to 52 feet, we become a backwater port. We have the infrastructure in place, but sequestration, budget cuts are going to reduce the Corps of Engineers budget. Now I worry if that happens that we will not be able to have enough money to deepen Charleston and all the other ports. The state has put $300 million aside. The state has already put their share of the money up. It's my job to go find $300 million on the federal side, and that's why we need to do away with these budget cuts that are killing the Corps of Engineers.
Senator, you mentioned that you and some members of your party would be willing to look at closing certain tax loopholes, maybe in exchange for entitlement reform.
Yes.
Do you think there's enough political will on both sides of the aisle to have those discussions?
There's about $500 billion left in sequestration for the rest of the decade. If sequestration is fully implemented, the CDC's budget's cut by 30%. That doesn't make sense. You're going to have the smallest Marine Corps and Navy since 1915. That doesn't make sense. So the deal would be to find $500 billion of cuts in revenue outside of the Defense Department, NIH, and the CDC. I would close some loopholes to generate revenue, like the ethanol tax credit. I'd take that away and put it into paying for sequestration. If you means test benefits for Medicare, if you make over $250,000 a year, you get $109 a month to pay your prescription drug bill. That would save $50 billion. I think people that make $250,000 a year would pay the $109 a month if somebody in Washington asked them. Yes, we can fix this problem, and if we don't, we're going to destroy the military.
Senator, overall, what are your thoughts about the state of the Low Country?
Well, you got the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce won the award nationally. Why? Because this place is seen as a great place to do business and come and visit. Here's what I worry about: our infrastructure. I worry about not building the Jasper Port. If we don't do away with these budget cuts, you can't deepen the ports you have, much less build a new one. I worry about the roads and bridges, that we're having clogged arteries around here. It's getting unsafe to drive. So the best thing I can do to make sure this economy flourishes is to replenish the Highway Trust Fund nationally so we have more money to take care of 95 and maybe have the connector go all the way up to 95. When it comes to the real estate economy, in 2008, Beaufort County almost went bankrupt. When the housing market tanked, it almost destroyed this county. Borrowing money is far too hard. I'd like to sit down with Democrats and Republicans and find a way to give some relief from Dodd-Frank that makes it very hard for a bank to lend money. But the biggest thing we've done to help this area, the Low Country, is change the FEMA maps. Are you familiar with that issue? Last year, about 80% of the homes in the Hilton Head area would have been in a floodplain under the FEMA maps, which would make their homes uninsurable. We changed that law. So the economy of the Low Country is based on tourism, manufacturing, the service industry. You got to borrow money to buy a car and build a house. You got to have roads to travel on when you come to visit and to do business. Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure is my goal for the Low Country.
Do you plan to run for president in 2016?
Just get me reelected. I am
Nowhere near that. After your reelection, how
No,
about that?
I'm good to go with being in the Senate. I'm just fine with that job.
Senator, regarding Obamacare, you use the word re-engage rather than re-appeal.
We're not going to repeal Obamacare as long as he's president, but we can deal with some of the problems that are rearing their head. A lot of people in this area are going to get 29 hours of work rather than 40 because their company is going to make them a part-time employee, so they won't be covered on Obamacare. I'd like to redefine part-time work to be 40 hours. 90% of the people signing up for Obamacare in South Carolina get a subsidy from the federal government, and all you got to do is fill out a piece of paper. I like real income verification so we don't bankrupt the country. Those type things I think we can do in 2015. But we're not going to be able to repeal Obamacare as long as Obama's president. And in 2016, we'll have an election over this issue of how to provide health care. I think Obamacare is going to destroy our economy. I think employers are going to drop health care coverage, and people are going to go to these exchanges, and they're going to have to pay more, and they're going to have less choices for doctors.
Senator Graham, hundreds of millions of dollars have been put into this area and redeveloping this area. A lot of people that come from here, they don't necessarily like it. Can you tell us what the, I guess, the last couple of years in Hilton Head have meant for the state?
Well, it's an inconvenience to have the, your infrastructure basically in a state of constant repair. The goal for my generation is to make the next generation's life better. That's the American dream. That people coming after us will do as well or better. If we don't address the infrastructure problem now, you're going to destroy this economy. This is an economy that depends on people getting here, enjoying themselves, and getting home safely. So all that we're doing today to improve the roads and bridges will benefit us tomorrow. And the inconvenience we're going through is worth it in my humble opinion.
When you were introduced, David Tiggett said here you're retiring. What did you mean by that?
I'm retired?
That's what he said. He said.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Okay.
No, I'm not retiring. I'm
Good.
running. Vote for me next week.
I think he meant from the Air Force Reserve.
Oh yeah, I'll be retiring in the Air Force Reserves.
Oh, okay.
After 32 years of service. Yeah,
Very good to hear.
That would have been news if I said
I know. I was like-
I'm actively seeking re-election. Let me just sum it up by saying the Low Country of South Carolina is a cash cow for the rest of South Carolina. It is in my interest living in Seneca to make sure you have roads and bridges down here because more tourists will come and they will buy things and they will pay sales tax that helps the entire economy. It is in our interest as a state to make sure that people can borrow money and build houses, particularly second homes. So we got a lot to do in Washington. I want to go back, I want to hit the ground running, but when you look at why they received the award at Hilton Head and Bluffton Chamber of Commerce, that means that every chamber of commerce in the country saw something special here. What is special about this place? God has dealt us an incredible hand. What's special? Just look around. I think the real special thing about this part of South Carolina is how people work together to make it a place you want to come back to, and that you think about the future, just not the present. The local governments here, the Chamber of Commerce, work as a partner to make sure that we're doing things today that will help us tomorrow. That's why you won this award. My job as senator is to be your partner. Where I can, I'm going to be a partner to the Low Country of South Carolina to make sure that the federal government is taking care of our needs when appropriate. That means we got to fix the Highway Trust Fund because it's running out of money. Thank you.